Everybody, it's Hank Linderman. Welcome to Getting Angry. Monday, August 10th. I almost said April. My goodness. Mary Richardson's here. So glad to see you all here. Mary, of course, you know to share when you can. We're going to ask you to share because that helps us spread our message as far as we can. You know, this is called Getting Angry, and the idea is a lot of us are very angry. Cindy Braun is here. Billy McNichol is here. Yes, Bill's going to ask you to share so that an angel can get their wings. We need all the help we can get in that regard. Mark Maselli is here, and he's getting ready to share something with us, it looks like. There is so much going on. There's so much reason to be angry. And in fact, I'm a little bit wound up. I'm a little bit angry, but I'm not going to act like a damn fool. I'm going to use my anger to focus and get us ready to do what we have to do to save our nation, to save Kentucky, to save the world. That sounds ridiculous, to save the world, but that is all of our actions right now need to be focused towards saving America. We are close to really destroying our government, destroying our democracy. There's unrest in the streets. It's not going to get better until we start to deal with the problems that are at the base of it. Now, you know that I'm running for Congress here in Kentucky's 2nd District. That's from Bullitt County down to Bowling Green, Owensboro across to Danville. It's 21 counties. I'm a Democrat. I'm the Democratic nominee. I tell everybody I'm a progressive populist. I think that we really do need to rebalance things between people and corporations. And by populist, I just mean political and social change that comes from the grassroots up. And that's our campaign, is a grassroots style campaign. This weekend, by the way, I was invited to attend the inaugural August 8th Emancipation Day event in Bowling Green and in the Shake Rag District, which is a historic black district. And I want to thank John Alma Barnett for making that happen, and also Janice Chumbly. They invited me. I was able to speak, but more importantly, I was able to walk around. And I believe we're going to get some folks from the Shake Rag District to come in and talk to us and tell us more about Shake Rag. Oh, good. The NAM show is officially canceled. Oh, my gosh, look at all these. Randy Davidson is here. Barbara Tichy is here. Yes, Mary Richardson says, please remind us every day not to act like damn...
wait just a damn minute.
Exactly. Let's not act like damn fools.
Now wait just a damn minute.
That, of course, is our dear friend Chris Cabali from Boyle County. And Chris is just a wonderful human being. She's just begun her 10th decade, and she's a bulwark of the community and a close friend, and I just adore her. And we had a conversation, and she said that when I gave her I asked her a question I probably shouldn't have asked when she was born. Mark Andes is here. I'm so glad to have you here, Mark. We're going to share. Anyway, the Shake Rag District is a historic district, like I say, in Bowling Green, and there's more to be talked about that. It's being encroached on by gentrification and just the power of development as the downtown area becomes more and more developed. This traditionally black neighborhood is under attack, and they obviously would like to keep the neighborhood intact. It's a very famous district, and it's so we'll talk about that when that happens. And today, by the way, we're going to have Kenny Fogle here. There's Kenny. Kenny is the one of the a deputy political director for the KDP, and he's also the chair of the Nelson County Party, so he'll be talking with us. Let's do our sad trek through the numbers, and you're going to see I'm fairly upset about some of this stuff. Hang on. Let's see. I have to push all the right buttons. I'm my own staff, by the way. I'm the cameraman, I'm the producer, I'm the engineer, and I'm the host. So thank you all for tolerating my lack of skill occasionally. Anyway, so let's look at these numbers. This is from USA, the USA numbers from worldometers.info. And of course, over the weekends, we find that the numbers dip and then they only come roaring back right away. But the big one to look at, there's two big ones to look at. We're over 165,000 deaths right now, and we are now over 5 million cases. The only other nations that have come close to that are Brazil and India, and they're significantly behind us. In fact, we're almost the combination of both Brazil and India, and we'll get a little deeper into that. Here's California. Again, the numbers settle down over the weekends, and I think that some of this is just reporting is slow over the weekend. That's the excuse that I have. So it looks like Texas has dropped back in their daily cases, and now it's California back in the lead with new cases, although deaths, Texas, but let's wait until tomorrow. I'm sure there'll be something different. These are total coronavirus cases in Kentucky, and this is a linear scale, so these are absolute cases. They still keep rising, and notice how it's gotten steeper since July. So basically in the last month, cases in Kentucky have gotten steeper. So we do not have this under control yet. Glenn Greenwald, who's a well-known journalist who lives in Brazil now, and Glenn Greenwald, if you're not aware of him, was involved quite a bit in the story about Edward Snowden. Pardon me. But he now lives in Brazil, and he says, Brazil today will pass 100,000 COVID-19 deaths, the only country other than the U.S. to reach that grim milestone. Even worse, it took 3 months to kill 50,000 people and just 50 days to kill the next 50,000. There's a Cindy Braun, and I'll look into this, Cindy. Sorry, I'm coughing. I don't have the virus. California's Secretary of Health has resigned, so I'll be looking into that. That'll be certainly something interesting to talk about. The big story I want to talk to you about today, because I'm very, very frustrated with the idea that our government still has not decided to do the right thing. We always say we want them to go Godzilla on the virus, and by that we mean, my opinion is, we've got to shut things down again. We've got to do something like what Canada did, pay every one of us to stay home. There was a Republican legislator, I believe, or maybe it was Steve Mnuchin. Someone was complaining, some Republican official was complaining, we're paying people to stay home. Yes, that's the idea. That's what we need. We need people to stay home, and if it takes money to do that, that's what we need to do. So the story I want you to look at today, if you can bear to do it, it's a bit of a grim litany, is in Slate.com. There's the cover to the story, and these are all quotes from President Trump. We have it totally under control. I said to my people, slow the testing down. I shake anybody's hand now. I'm proud of it. We're testing everybody that we need to test. By April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away. I think we all remember what a bunch of baloney this is. So the story is called The Trump Pandemic, and it's a blow-by-blow account of how the president has essentially killed hundreds of thousands of people, and we're going to get into the ways that he could have saved so many of us. Vonda Kay is here saying, save the children. Vonda, we will talk about that because, as you know, the schools are getting ready to reopen, and it's very, very dangerous. There's also the issue of, we've got the Sturgis motorcycle gathering is going on, I believe, this week, and that's going to be 250,000 people, which is a small version of this event. And they will not be socially distancing. Masks are not required. I have been to this event when I was performing with the band America, and we performed at Sturgis. So it's a wonderful event, but this is really a terrible time for it. And Harley riders are from all over the country. They're from New York City. They're from California. They're from Washington State, from Washington, D.C., from Florida, from Texas, from Kentucky. They're from all over the United States, and this looks like a really, really bad idea. And I understand people are frustrated that they want to be able to resume their normal lives, but I'm in conversation. Cindy says our numbers in Sturgis are only down 3.8% from previous years. I guess you're seeing different estimates from me. But the one low ball estimate was 250,000 people on Harleys showing up. So this is going to be a very interesting time I certainly don't want to. I certainly hope not that many people get sick from it. I hope that if it were up to me, this virus would disappear tomorrow. And that's why I say we need to go Godzilla on this virus the way other countries had. Let's go back and look. Let's just look at this first chart one more time. Brazil has finally hit 100,000 deaths. We have 165,000. We have 5.2 million cases. And when you start to go down the list, I don't have South Korea for today, but South Korea, because they jumped on testing so quickly, they did such a great job with testing that they were able to control the virus. And if we had done what they had done, 99% of us might not have had to die. That's a lot of people. And if you've had someone in your family pass away due to this virus, you know what I'm talking about. There are stories all the time, by the way, of people who say, I'm not wearing a mask and I don't care, and then they get the virus and they say, oh my goodness, it's no joke. The police chief here in Grayson County in Litchfield, his whole family caught it, and he posted in the local paper and on the website for the local FM station that he'd been shot, he'd had a broken neck, he'd had all kinds of things. Vonda, the real story for most Americans right now is the virus. And I certainly don't mind you sharing something related to the virus, but I think we are all we're fairly aware that President Trump wants to change the subject endlessly. There was talk of he wanted to have his inauguration speech on the White House grounds, which even Republicans objected to. Bill Maher has said, let's put him in front of something that he deserves, like in front of a graveyard. Maybe that's where he should do his acceptance speech. And if you'll read this Slate article, you're going to see just how serious it is. Trump thought that this was going to go away, and he had it completely wrong. We have not dealt with the virus properly. Now, supposedly, the idea that it would go away in warm weather, the president apparently got this from the president of China in a phone call in February. That's the idea. And President Trump's narrative, which of course is all about him, is that he had built the greatest economy in history. Yes, I suppose, if you were a robber baron. And that China blindsided him by unleashing the virus. Never mind that President Trump conspired with the president of China, President Xi Jinping, to hide the details of the virus. But who's keeping track, There were 3 logical steps that could have been taken. And the first one was suspending travel from Europe. Yes, he had suspended travel from China, but he had also allowed 40,000 returning Americans without doing any precautions about this, returning from China. That was deadly. The next thing that could have been done would have been gear up the production of masks, ventilators. I'm going to say his other, we'll get to number 3. Here's number 3. The thing that he should have done was, sorry, I went to the wrong one. Second step was masks. And the third and most important step was to test the population. And this was where President Trump went wrong. And he not only ignored warnings about how we had to test, he accused people of being alarmist. Anyway. Well, I'm going to get back here because we're going to reach out to Kenny Fogle. And Kenny is the, like I say, the director of the Democratic Party in Nelson County, and he's a wonderful human being. I really do enjoy him. Let's see if I can get to this side. Yeah, I want to get to that side. Hang on. Like I say, I got too many buttons to push. So there I am. So there's Kenny Fogle. Let's give him a call. Nelson County, of course, is the home of, I consider it the bourbon capital of Kentucky. But let's see if we can get Kenny on the phone. I guess we need
Hello?
Kenny, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic.
That's a dangerous question these days. I have to acknowledge that. It really is a dangerous question. We have crossed 5 million cases, 5.2 million cases. We're over 165,000 deaths. If we had done what Germany had done, 70% of those people might not have had to die. And if we had done as well as South Korea and Australia, it would be more like 99%. And I was just discussing the list of poor decisions, very bad, catastrophic decisions made by President Trump. We have to play the noise every time we mention his name. But anyway, I'm settling down. This show is called Getting Angry, and I explained to everybody you don't want to act like a damn fool. Even though I'm angry, I'm going to get under control for my conversation with you. Now, Kenny, you're speaking to us from Nelson County, which is county seat is Bardstown, right?
Right, we're in Bardstown.
All right. Now, Bardstown, seems to me the claim of Bardstown is bourbon capital of the state of Kentucky is not an improper claim.
No, we claim that title, bourbon capital of the world, as a matter of fact. We have a bourbon festival every year. It's probably one of the largest festivals in the country, and that's been canceled this year. It's going to be a virtual festival. Not exactly sure what that's going to look like, but that's in September of every year. But now that's our claim to fame. We have about 7 or 8 working distilleries right here in Bardstown. So bourbon is what makes us go.
And it's a beautiful town. It's one of my favorite cities in the towns in the district. I can't really say it's a city. It's a big town, and I just love coming to Bardstown. But there's also a bit of a scandal going on in Bardstown relating to several unsolved murders that have gone on the last 5 to 7 years.
Well, we've had several. Yeah, we've had for about 4 years in a row there. We had a unsolved murder every year. We started back in 2013 with the murder of a Bardstown police officer, Jason Ellis. And that he was going home one night early in the morning around 2 a.m. and stopped to pick up some brush alongside the Bluegrass Parkway and was ambushed with a shotgun. And that's never been solved. Nobody to this date, and nothing's ever come out of that. And then a couple of years later, right after the very next year, another young lady and her daughter were killed in their homes. Kathy and Samantha Netherland were killed in their homes. That is yet to be solved. Nobody knows what happened. That happened early in the evening on November 9th. And then the 2 biggest ones that's getting the most attention is the one, obviously, the one that's going on right now, Crystal Rogers, and her father, Tommy Ballard. She was killed in 2015. He was shot a year later in 2016. But the reason Crystal's back in the news right now is, again, it was unsolved. They found her car out on the Bluegrass Parkway. They accused her boyfriend, the live-in boyfriend, of being the murderer, but no evidence was ever found. And about 2 weeks ago, a farmer was out on his property along the creek on the Beach Fork River right near the Nelson-Washington County line and found parts of a body. So they exhumed the body, sent it to Quantico, Virginia, and the FBI did some testing, but they never said who it was. They have still, to this day, they've not said if it was Crystal, but they showed up a couple days ago. About 150 FBI agents showed up about 2 days ago to the Brooks Houck farm, he's the live-in boyfriend, to his farm, his brother's house, his grandmother's house, his mother's house, and they've been all over Nelson County. So we don't know what they found. They've executed 9 or 10 warrants, search warrants, but again, everybody's speculating that obviously it was the Crystal Rogers body that was found, because why else would the FBI agents be here? But they've descended upon Nelson County, and they're still here, so we see them everywhere.
Wow, I guess we all better watch our step in Bardstown. I wonder where on earth they're staying. Do you all have places for 150 agents to stay?
I really don't know if they're staying here in Bardstown or not. Yeah, we've got a few. We've got another hotel just opened about a week or two. Matter of fact, we got 2 new hotels. One hadn't opened yet, but we've got about 3 working hotels. And I would say that 150 agents right now, being it's not tourist season, is considerably down. Obviously, that's one of the big resources we have here in Bardstown is tourism, and it's down because of the COVID-19 problem. So, yeah, there's probably enough room for them. If not, we're not that far from Louisville. We're only about 35 to 40 minutes out of Louisville, so I'm sure they found places to stay. But, you know, they've had streets blocked off, and the FBI had big trucks here in town. The FBI, we've seen planes, helicopters flying all over the place. So whether they're FBI or not, we're not 100% sure, but it looks like we've been invaded to some degree.
Sounds like an episode of Justified.
Well, we don't know. So we, as you say, we just keeping our eyes open and don't know how big this is getting, because they brought in the IRS as well. So we're not exactly sure why the IRS is here, because they've been toting off a lot of things out of the house home as well. Because Brooks he's a builder and a renter. He's got all kinds of properties here in Bardstown and Nelson County, and a lot of speculation is what the IRS is looking for. Much like Al Capone, they couldn't find him on anything, so they got him on mail fraud. So maybe that's what they're doing here. They can't find any evidence of murder, so they're going to go look at something else. We just don't know. And between the FBI and the IRS, we got all kinds of federal agents running around right now in Nelson County.
Well, it sounds very exciting. Maybe not in a great way, but let's hope they get to the bottom of it. And so, look, let's also talk about you. You are the chair of the Nelson County Democratic Party. How long have you been the chair of the Democratic Party in Nelson County?
Well, I've been on the committee since back in almost 30 years. I guess back in the 80s, I actually got on the committee. Now, I've only been the chair, though, about the last 3 years. We've had different chairs, and I really wasn't looking for that particular job at the time, but the current chair at that time had resigned and taken another job with the city. She was the city attorney. So I moved up, and I was vice chair for probably a decade or so. So I've been chair for about 3 years now. And was sort of thinking about giving it up this year, but then had reorganization because I've taken another job at the state the state Democratic Party. So I got to tell people my job is working with the Democratic Party and my hobby is working with the Democratic Party. So they sort of coincide. But now that reorganization has been moved to the spring of next year, I'm not exactly sure what my fate's going to be on that part of it, but like I said, I enjoy it. That's sort of my life. I mean, I wake up every day just tickled to death working for the Democratic Party, whether it's locally or whether it's for the state.
Well, it's certainly a more exciting time to be doing that than in the last several years, because we are seeing the possibility of not just a blue wave, but a blue tsunami.
Well, we're hoping so. I mean, that's always the thing about politics. It's always been a pendulum. I mean, it always swings one way and swings another, because the next generation, I think, is somewhat anti-establishment of the generation before them. So in the past, we've had Democrats, as the younger ones come along, they want to protest, so they end up going against their previous generation. So we're hoping this new generation is coming on strong as Democrats. The younger generation is what we're relying on, hopefully, to make us strong and go back. And we're viable. We're still viable. We'll still out-register Republicans considerably in the state of Kentucky. It's just when they come to the voting booth that we don't always do quite as well lately. And I think we're going to swing back the other way. We've got some good candidates, good issues, and I think Trump Bevin certainly proved how badly you can run a state, and Trump has certainly proven how badly you can run a country. So, yeah, I think people are ready for us again.
I want to mention there's a young person that I think you met on the Zoom call, the 2nd District Zoom call yesterday, named April York, and she's in Hardin County, and she's just April York, and she's the niece, I want to say, of Tony York. Tony York has the restaurant in outside of E-Town called Tony York's on Main, and Tony's a strong Democrat, and his niece has joined things, and I've had some conversations with April, and I'm very excited to see young people getting involved. Now, one reason that maybe Democrats haven't done so well in the past 10, 20 years in Kentucky is they really haven't had much of a message for rural America. And, of course, the 2nd District, the 1st, the 2nd, the 4th, and the 5th, these are rural districts. And, the message of the Republicans has not been so great for them either, but it was based on cultural things. But because we really weren't able to articulate a meaningful response, they were able to get away with that. But it sounds like the Democratic Party nationally is getting the idea that we need to pay attention to the problems out here in rural America, in rural Kentucky. And you and I have discussed the Contract for Rural and Working America. So you've been tasked by the KDP to set up a rural caucus. Can you tell us about that?
Well, absolutely. Primarily what's happened is people follow a model. A model basically tells you go where the people are, and obviously the people are congregated in the urban areas. So that's the DNC has sort of followed that model over the past few years. And while that is a good model to some degree, it does leave out a lot of people. And in Kentucky, that's obviously a large number of people because we've got a lot of rural Kentuckians. So one of the things we discussed back at Democratic Party headquarters before all this COVID hit a few months ago is how can we reach out? Because we heard this over and over, is the Democratic Party has forgotten about us. You know, nobody thinks about us. We're always sort of the last people everybody hears from. So we're very sensitive to that. So Mary Nishamuda, she's the executive director of the party, and Trey Heineman, he's my boss, the political director. They both called me in, and they said, "You're from a rural area. Seems like it'd be right down your area line. What can we do?" And I said, "Well, the first thing we can do is just simply get a bunch of people from the rural area together and ask them." So we've done that we've only had one meeting so far, but when we had the meeting, it was quite amazing that, you know, everybody thinks rural America, they think automatically agricultural and farming. Well, it is agribusiness, which we still yet to define exactly what that means, but a lot more to it. The only thing agriculture will come up really was talking about growing hemp. Mostly everything else was about Wi-Fi out throughout the state and cell phones coverage throughout the state, transportation issues, hospital, health care. I mean, it was so many different things that came up that we're just going to narrow it down. So talking to our committee, I had a couple of them, Hildegard Powell and Bo Weston, the two of our county chairs. They says, "You really need to get Hank involved. Hank's got this contract with Rural America going." And I said, "Give him a call," and said that you two are all very on the same page. So that's basically what initiated my call to you and us talking together, because Rural America seems to be forgotten, but at the same time, we're going to make an effort to make sure that's corrected, and if so, hopefully helps the Democratic Party and everybody in the process.
It's going to be good for the whole country when we do the right things for people who live out in rural areas. You know, rural broadband. 30% of the country doesn't have rural broadband. How are they supposed to go back to school, you know, or do school distance-wise without broadband? So it's just a catastrophe, you know, some of the things we're dealing with. And well, Kenny, I think this is great, and I hope you'll come back and talk with us as this develops. And I'm very excited, and I thank you by the way, for inviting me to be part of the Rural Caucus. It's going to be an honor. I'm really
you're going to be more than invited. You're going to be probably one of the most active members. I'm excited about having you on board, and I mentioned that to our Democratic Party leadership earlier today. We had a Zoom meeting, and I said we just got a big boost. I said we get Hank on board. I said I think we're moving this ahead much further and much quicker than I anticipated. So I thank you very much for being a part of this and doing what you do.
You know, this is something we all have to do together. This process of fixing what's wrong in our government, in our country, and all the problems that we have got to deal with, this is something we have to do as a group of people. And I'm happy to be part of that group. And Kenny, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you having me today.
All right, Kenny, you take care. We will talk to you soon. All right, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. We have so much to do, so let's focus on it. Remember, when you get angry, there's no need to behave like a damn fool. Let's do the right thing. Thank you all.